Hello and welcome to the latest webinar from Innova Systems Multibody Modelling. My name is Alex Aprigliano. So in this webcast, what we're going to look at is some techniques for multibody modelling. Now, probably the most common applications for multibody modelling are weldments and perhaps furniture design. And those have already been covered in other webcasts in previous months. So what we're going to do is just have a look at some of the tools that we can use when we're working in a multi-body environment. So we'll switch to SolidWorks and I'll just open up a part. Okay, so currently we have a wrench or a spanner on the screen, and we've extruded either end of that, and what we're looking to do is extrude the sketch that's sort of connecting the two bodies together, if you like. Now we know we've got two bodies in our part because we have a solid bodies folder here, so we have currently boss extrude 1 and boss extrude 2. Now, just note that the name of the solid body takes the name of the last feature that was used to create it, but you can change that should you wish to. Okay, now if I take that sketch and I extrude it, and we'll just say 4mm about the mid-plane. The all-important tick box is the merge result option here. So with that on, what that will do is, because it's overlapping those two bodies, it will merge everything into one. So we'll find that when we press OK, our solid bodies folder changes. It shows that we now have one solid body, and that solid body is now called boss extrude 3. If we go back into that same feature and we uncheck the option to merge result, what we end up with is 3 separate bodies in the graphics area, and the body boss extrude 3 is actually overlapping boss extrude 1 and boss extrude 2. Now the relevance of this is that if you was to do a mass properties calculation on this, the mass properties would be wrong because you have the material overlapping. And also, let's say I wanted to create a fillet along where that face and the back face there intersect, I wouldn't be able to do it because there is no edge there. Now, when we go to that same feature again and we turn on merge result, you'll notice the feature scope option becomes available to us. And what that basically does is it allows us to pick and choose which bodies we want our feature to merge with. So it defaults to auto select, and what that basically means is that any body that feature comes into contact with, it will automatically try and merge, providing that body is shown in the graphics area. If it's hidden, it won't. Now you can uncheck that option and you can choose a body that you want it to specifically merge with. So what we'll find now is if I hit OK, boss extrude 2 is the far right end, and boss extrude 3 has become the head and the bridge, if you like. Okay, now if you do have a collection of bodies that are sort of connected to each other but are separate in your graphics area, it is possible to then just take all of those bodies and merge them together. We just go to Insert, Features, Combine. There are 3 operation types in here. We'll go through all of them, but we'll start off with Add. So Add is just where you want to merge your bodies together. So as I press OK, that becomes all merged together and the body becomes one here called Combine 1. Okay, so that's what the Add function does in the Combine feature, and we'll have a look at where we can use that. So if I just show you in my open dialog box 3 parts. So we have an extension lead power block, and that is one of the ends for it. And that is the sort of intermediate section, and that is the other end. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new part file. And you may not know this, but it is actually possible to insert parts into parts. So if we go ahead and just click on Insert Part, we will choose the power cord end part to start with, press Open, and we can essentially just place this part into this part file wherever we want. It works very similar to assemblies, whereas if you hit the green tick here, it will snap the origin of the part that we're inserting in into the origin of the new part. Now when you're inserting parts, you can choose what you want to bring through. So quite often it's just the solid body that you're interested in, but if you need to access the sketches or the planes or the axes that you've added to this part, you can just choose to bring those through here. There's an option to locate part with move copy feature. We're just going to turn that off for now, and we're going to choose to not to break link to a original part. So if we press OK, you'll see that we're working in a part and we've brought in a part to that part. If we just expand that, you can see that we've just brought through the solid body data. Okay, now at this stage we're going to add another part. So the power block, and again we're just going to position that, and in this instance they actually line up correctly. Now we're going to pattern the body, so if we choose an edge to pattern along and the body that we want to pattern, we're going to pattern several instances at 40mm spacing, and I'm going to send the direction the other way like so. Okay, so if we look in the solid bodies folder, we now have 7 separate bodies. We'll insert another part at this stage. This will be the power switch end. And again, we'll just align that to the origin like so. Now you can see the power switch end actually needs to go to the other end. So what we're going to do is we're going to just locate part with the move copy feature. Okay, now this launches locate part here, which is just move copy body, which is a command that you may have come across before, and that will basically allow us to translate or rotate along an axis, or alternatively you can toggle to constraints and you can use mates to position a part. So these are just sort of standard mates working the same way as assembly mates. So I'm going to select that face and then the back face of the last power block and bring those together like so. Now if need be, you can add more mates at this stage to get the part position correctly. Okay, so that is the power block for the extension lead, but it's separate bodies at the moment. So all we're going to do is go to our combine tool, select those bodies and add them all together as one. So you can now see that is one solid body. Okay, so that's where we can use the combine add option. We'll now look at the subtract function. So again, I'm just going to open up a part, and this part, all I've done is I've extruded a slot shape, I've added a fillet to it, and I've added some sketch text which I've cut into the body, and I've just reversed it as well. So this is going to act as like a stamp for our wrench. So we'll just close this file down. We'll come into our wrench file, we'll go to insert part, and we'll select that tool. Okay, we'll position it on the origin like so, and we'll locate part with the move copy feature, and again I'm making sure that I don't break link to the original part. Okay, now I'm going to roughly position it centrally, so something like that, and maybe just lift it up by a millimetre or so. Press OK, and you can see that I now have that second body in my graphics area. Okay, so if we go to combine again, this time we're going to use the subtract option. My main body is going to be my wrench. My body to subtract is going to be the tool. Press OK, and you can see that it subtracts the tool body away from the wrench, like so. Now, just to go back to this break link to original part option, basically with that switched off, the part comes in, it has this dash and arrow next to it, which basically means that it's linked to the original part. And if we just go and open that part, any changes that we make here, i.e. if we just reduce the size of that, like so, when we come to our part here and we rebuild it, you'll see that that change propagates across. Now, with regard to the subtract, there is a similar option that is available in the indent tool. So we'll just suppress the combine, so the two bodies are again overlapping. If you go to insert features, indent, you pick a target body, which is our wrench. We pick a tool body, which is the tool. And then within here, we tick the option to cut. And at this stage, we see a preview. So this allows us to basically subtract one body away from another. The difference between the two tools is that you can choose to add a clearance at this stage. So let's say we want 0.2 clearance all around the tool. Press OK, and we'll go ahead and we'll section through. You can see that it's added a 0.2 clearance all the way around that tool where it indents into the wrench. The other thing you'll notice is that with the subtract in the combine feature, it removed the body that was subtracted. With the indent feature, it leaves that body in just in case you want to keep it or you need to use it again. If you don't need it, you can just then find that body and just delete that body out, and that delete body is a feature within the tree itself, so that body will be accessible before that feature. Okay, next up we're going to look at common within the combine tool. So we'll just close these documents away and we'll open up the combine tool. The combine one part here. Right, so in this instance what I have is a part and a sketch in the middle of that part. Now I'm going to take that sketch and I'm going to extrude it and I'm going to send it through all in both directions, and I'm going to ensure that merge result is unchecked. So we have two solids that are intersecting each other. So if we go to insert features combine and choose common, we pick the two bodies that are overlapping and press OK, and it will just keep the volume shared by both of those bodies. So that's our combine tool. Right, we'll use the combine tool again in just a second, but we'll have a look at another function of indent now. So we'll just open up a separate file. So here what we have is two bodies in our graphics area. If we just isolate them so you can see what's going on. One is just a sort of simple revolve, and the other is an extrude. Okay, so you can see that the larger body is sitting just a little bit above the sort of sheet body. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use the larger body to press the shape into the sheet body. So, if we go to Insert, Features, Indent, we pick our target body, which is this one here. We'll just change the thickness value to 1 mil, otherwise we won't see a preview. And then we'll go to the tool body region and we'll select this side, and what that will do is it will just press that shape into our body and it will maintain a 1 mil wall thickness all the way around it. Okay, again, you can choose to have a clearance there, so I don't want one, so I'm going to set that to 0. And you've got this toggle here for keep and remove selections. So basically, what we're doing at the moment is pressing that tool up into the sheet. Remove selections would be pressing the larger body down into the sheet. Okay, if we press OK, what we'll do is we'll just section through to see the end result of that. Okay, so you can see there the two bodies, how that's calculated. Now, we don't need the larger body now, so we can just delete that out. And we're going to again insert a part, and we'll pick a tool. So that's now in our graphics area. Now what we're going to do is just combine the common volume between them, which makes for quite an interesting shape. So you can see there that that shape would have been relatively tricky, I guess, to create without those features. There would be other ways to create that shape, but I mean that is a nice sort of simple way. Okay, if we close this down, we'll now go back to this combine tool here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a sketch and produce a cut which essentially splits this body into two. Okay, now when you produce a cut that splits a body into two, you'll be presented with this dialog box here. So it's asking us which bodies we want to keep. So we can choose to keep all bodies, or we can choose to keep selected bodies. Now what's quite nice here is that you can choose both or either bodies that you want to keep, but you can also specify per configuration. So for instance, if I had a left hand and a right hand configuration here, in the left hand configuration I could choose to keep body 1, and in the right hand configuration I could choose to keep body 2. Then you have your right hand and your left hand both within the same file. Okay, now we've split it into two, we may want to export one of these bodies out as a part in its own right, such that we can use it in another assembly, let's say. So there's a couple of techniques we can use to do that, and the first one we're going to look at is just simply right clicking on the body in the solid bodies folder, and you'll get the option to insert into new part. It'll prompt us to save it. I'm just going to cancel that. Okay, so if we tile our windows, we can see that we have that left hand body exported out into its own file. The file itself, the derived file, has a stock feature in it, which basically means that the geometry of that is derived from its master. So what that basically means is that any changes we make to this, i.e. if I come in and I change something, and let's say I add a fillet, like so, any changes that I make to that will propagate across. You can see that showing the rebuild symbol, and as I click in the graphics area it rebuilds and the geometry updates. However, that is a sort of one-way link. So if I, for instance, come into the derived part and I choose to fillet, you can see the fillet sits underneath the stock feature and only exists in the derived part. Okay, we'll go ahead and close those files down. And we'll open up the mouse. Okay, so this is really more typical of where you'd export bodies into separate files. So this mouse would probably be made of, or the casing would be made of two or maybe 3 parts. Now, because the sort of connection between those two parts is relatively complex, it's much easier to generate the shape, if you like, in one part file and then split that out afterwards into separate parts. So that's what I'm going to do here. I've got a surface that I've created which just runs through the split line of the body. And what we're going to do is split that single solid body into two using that surface. So we go to Insert, Features, and then Split. Okay, it's just prompting me to select some templates. Now it's asking us to select a sketch, a plane, or a surface for the trim tools geometry. So we're just saying that this surface is going to be what we use to cut that solid body into two. So we go Cut Part, and we're presented with the resulting bodies list here. So you can see it's split it into two, and we can just choose which ones we want to keep. At this stage it is actually possible to save these out as well, but I'm not going to worry about that for the time being. Okay, so we'll just say I want to keep both bodies, press OK, and you can see that we have the bottom surface, a bottom body, and the top body. Okay, now this time what I want to do is export these bodies out, but rather than right clicking and inserting into new part, I'm going to use the Save Bodies option. So I go to Insert, Features, and then Save Bodies. Okay, again it's just prompting me to select templates. Right, so it asks us which bodies we want to save. We can give those bodies a name, so I'll call one top. And the other bottom. And we'll just go ahead and press OK. Okay, now if we window and tile, you can see those two derived parts have been created for us. Again, in the same way, we have a stock feature in the tree which is relating back to the master part file here. Now, the difference between doing that and insert into new part is insert into new part. The master part is always, anything that you add to the master part is always propagated across to the derived parts. That's not the case here. So for instance, if I was to put a cut through there, you can see that as I click on those to rebuild, nothing changes. Now that's because of this Save Bodies feature and its location in the tree. So anything that comes before the Save Bodies option is automatically propagated through to the derived parts. Anything that's after isn't. So that means that if I move that cut extrude to above the Save Bodies command and rebuild, you can see that that feature or that geometry then propagates across. So let's just go ahead and delete that feature out like so. Now with regard to using these parts, probably what you would do next is perhaps shell the two parts here, add mounting bosses, that sort of thing, which we've got some nice tools for in SolidWorks, which will be covered in a later webinar. Now once you've done that work, if you want to create an assembly using those parts, what's quite nice here is because they've been defined within one part, what you can do is you can just tie their location to the origin location of the assembly, and they should line up perfectly for us. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the webinar. We have some webinars coming up 14th February administrative images, 21st of February sheet metal costing, and 28th of February advanced technical publications, which is just more advanced 3D VIA Composer functionality. If you need to contact us, feel free to do so. Our details are on the screen now. Thank you for watching.